Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ilma Fatimah Albar. I'm student at Pancasakti University Bekasi. In this video, I will present about assessing speaking skill.
The first, what is assessing speaking skill? Assessing speaking requires that we either observe a live oral performance or that we capture the performance by some means for evaluation time. A method for elicitation must be selected, rating scales must be developed, and interviewers and/or readers must be trained. Design the test. First, reliability. A reliable test is one which will produce the same result if it is administered again. In other words, it is not affected by the learner mood, level of tiredness, attitude, and etc. This is a challenging area in the case of assessing speaking. We need to gather as much data as we can about asking learners to speak lengthily, especially at lower levels of ability will result in tiredness and a fall off in performance. Speaking in a foreign language is tiring and difficult. Adding the stress of assessment to it makes matters worse. To ensure that a speaking test is reliable, then we need to set as many short tasks as we can over a period of days or even weeks targeted at assessing the abilities we have identified. The type of marking that is required also plays a role here. The more subjective the marking is, the less reliable will be the test. If the assessor is required to perform multiple functions, interlocutor, assessor, participant, etc., then reliability of judgment is compromised. Second, validity. 3 questions here. 1. Does the test measure what we say it measures? For example, if we set out to test someone's ability to participate in a discussion for academic purposes, do the test item used actually test that ability or something else? 2. Does the test contain a relevant and representative sample of what it is testing? For example, if we are testing someone's ability to take part in every interaction, does the text we set get them to deploy the sort of language they actually need to do that? 3. Do we have enough tests to target all the skills we want to assess? For example, if we want to test the ability to summarize information orally, do we have a test focused explicitly and discretely on that skill? 3. Practicality. Against the 2 main factors, we have to balance practicality. It may be advisable to set as many different tasks as possible to ensure reliability and to try to measure as many of the skills as possible in the same assessment procedure to ensure validity, but in the real world, time is often limited and concentration spans are not infinite. Practicality applies to both learners and assessors. 1. For learners, the issue is often one of test fatigue. Too many tests over too short a time may result in learners losing commitment to the process. On shorter course, in particular, testing too much can be perceived as a waste of learning time. For the assessors, too many time-consuming tasks which need careful assessment and concentration may put an impractical load on time and research. Assessors may become tired and reliable. Next, consider a range of text type. 1. Form-filling text. The assessor or interlocutor plays the role of helpful clerk eliciting the data needed to fill in a form on the telephone or face-to-face. Such texts are almost infinitely variable in terms of the level of detail which can be deemed and useful for assessing the learner's ability to provide extra information or require clarification. 2. Compare and contrast text. Presenting people with two different but similar pictures can be a useful way of testing the ability to compare and contrast things in speaking. Such text also test the ability to describe what you see, although that is arguably not a commonly required real-world skill. 3. Charts and tables. Getting people orally to describe or summarize data from charts and tables, identify trends, and locate significant factors orally is a useful way to test some higher-level speaking abilities. It is actually quite challenging and we need to give the subject adequate preparation time. 4. Simple graphics and picture sequences. Image of event are useful ways of testing the ability to describe and or speculate in speaking. Series of related pictures can be used to assess the ability to produce a convincing recount, and obscure or odd-angle pictures can elicit speculative language. 5. Role plays are almost infinitely variable in terms of topics, function required, and level of formality used. They can be very finely targeted. Role plays can be conducted between two learners or with the assessor or with a third person who has no assessment role at all. The problem with this kind of assessment is that a learner's performance may well be influenced by the performance of the partner, and a number of cultural factors may play a significant part. From certain cultures, for example, young females may not wish to appear more knowledgeable than older males, and so on. And last, prepared presentation. These are poor ways to test speaking ability in general because too many variables, audience size, personality, nervousness, and etc. come into play, but if it is a skill the learners will need in English, then it is a clear and direct way of testing the ability to do it. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.